works. There it is. Yeah.
Okay, it is 10:02. I'm calling the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the April 19th meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections?
I move for acceptance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, sounds unanimous. Thank you. All right. Next, Brooklyn.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have received a request from Brooklyn to be released. And in looking at the criteria for attendance at or mandatory attendance at these meetings, you don't meet them anymore. So would anyone like to make a motion to release Brooklyn?
I want to comment, if you don't mind, Kate, on the great work that Brooklyn has done and progressing through these past few years since they came under us in June of 2019. And they voluntarily came under us, and I think that they have made some fantastic progress under this leadership and the great works of that team. So I will definitely make a motion to release.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Is there any other discussion?
I would just second the comments from Kim. Great work out there in the town of Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we'd like to thank you as well. I mean, without the guidance and support, I don't think we would have gotten to where we are today. So we appreciate all of your input.
Remember, I know that you asked the question. We are always here for advice, should you ever need that. And again, keep progressing through. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
And we don't want you to miss this. We don't want you to have to come back.
Yes. I mean, it is always a nice quarterly visit with you folks.
But you'd rather be gone, and you've done a great job. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Can all those in favor of releasing Brooklyn, please say
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Derby. Who do we have here with us from Derby today?
Nancy,
Chief of Staff.
Nancy Bosses, Deputy Finance Director.
Mayor's.
Okay. So
this is Glenn. I just have to have for the record that Derby is a client of my firm.
yes, thank you. So where do you stand with hiring a permanent finance director?
We are continuing our advertising.
Okay. I'm just going to go through, a couple things that I'd looked at the minutes and looking at the reports. In your narrative, you talked about being at 98% of collections on the taxes. The report showed 96%. So I guess my question is, which is it?
The narrative explains the calculations to come up to 98%. The budget was put together not knowing that we were going to fall under the cap change for the motor vehicle taxes. So in order to arrive at the taxes collected, we added the motor vehicle supplement grant from the state. Those
I'm
were
sorry.
originally included in the budget.
Kate, I'm going to put everybody on mute. We're getting a lot of background, and then after that, you can come off mute to speak. Or does that make sense?
Yes, please. Okay. So if you could explain that again, because looking at the report, you have property taxes and motor vehicles separate. So if somebody would explain that 98% in your narrative. You're going to have to unmute yourself. Maybe Walt, you want to explain it?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I was back on mute. Yeah, so in the report, the motor vehicle that you see is the grant amount that comes from the state because we fell over the cap. But when we prepared the budget, the entire property tax includes the cars. So
Okay.
in the narrative, I tried to explain in the 22-23 that we added the grant money in to get a fair comp, and that's how we got to the 98.
Okay. So what are you budgeting for 24?
We still are maintaining the 99 as far as collectibles.
Okay.
However-
Kim,
how-
you had
However,
asked. Kim, you had asked for an org chart and an ARPA report. I did see. I think I saw an ARPA report. Did you get what you asked for?
I did not get a, to my knowledge, and Bill, you can confirm that we did not receive an organizational chart. We just got the explanation in the narrative, that's all.
Okay.
That does give you the line of reporting, does it not?
Well, you also have HR, you have pay, other areas that oversee, that are in the financial area. So even tax collection, all of those areas within the organization.
HR does not report to the finance department, and neither does the tax office. The only people in the finance office are the ones that are mentioned in the narrative. And the direct relationship is the finance director, then the assistant finance director, and then the two assistants under that.
Okay. Looking at your 21-22 audit, you had a deficit in your insurance fund.
Yes,
Where do we stand as of the end of fiscal 23 with that?
that should be in the report that we provided. Let's see where we are with that. And bear with me because the reports are new and all the account numbers change, so. Nance, do you know what the new account numbers are for our insurances?
I believe it's 59, it's 59,000 something. It's still really new to me too. Hang on. Going to be 52 retirees, 52,904. Health insurance for the city is 52,905 and 52,916 for the Board of Ed.
Okay, so where did we wind up with for?
We were actually, as far as the health insurance, we're at 86.44% for the city's portion. The Board of Ed came in at 92.86%. The only thing we were actually over with was retiree medical, which came in at 130, which still put us under budget overall.
For FY 23.
Correct.
And how did you deal with the deficit from FY 22?
Came out of the fund balance.
Okay. All right. Looked at your corrective action plan. Let me find it. There we go. How are we doing on the monthly bank recs?
You're done on a monthly basis by the end of the month,
Okay.
99.9% of the time.
All right. And where do you stand, like, with your fiscal 23 audit? Have you gotten the auditor's information, or have they not started yet?
Board of Ed has started already. Because we're in the middle of still in the conversion phase, I'm holding off on my stuff because I want to make sure that everything's perfect and spot on before I hand it over to them.
Okay. Have you been able to reconcile with the Board of Ed at year end?
I did with Robbie Trainer, who's their business manager.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I had. Mike?
Just taking a look at the results in 2022. So I think you mentioned, you went to fund balance. Looks like it may be for the issue with the health coverage. But overall, the city's fund balance went down by 1.9 million, dropping from 6.4 million down to 4.5 million. Do you have early projections at this point on the results for 2023?
I believe we're going to be under budget, but I'm still. It's a culture shock here because they order things and I'm getting bills in now that I didn't foresee. So I've got to wait till the end of August to see where we are. They do not have a purchasing department here, so they have a tendency to purchase without getting a purchase order first, which we're changing that culture. So I've got to wait and see at the end of August.
Okay. At that point, presumably you'll have everything booked and accrued back for those expenses.
I hope so.
Okay.
Anything else I'll bring up to the auditors as it comes in if there's an issue. If it's immaterial, I'm not too concerned. But if there's a material item that comes in and crosses the board, I'm going to have to talk with the auditors on how to handle it at that point.
Okay.
And just so everybody's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
I said, just so everybody's familiar with it, the administration did try to implement a number of financial practices to address some of these issues. We had proposed a fund balance policy to increase the fund balance and to maintain it. We also had introduced a insurance reserve fund balance. The problem is in Derby, the city charter requires that any monies not expended during the year become part of the fund balance. And so unless you set up special non-lapsing accounts, any monies that are set aside for those purposes just get reversed over. So for example, if you had a surplus in your insurance account, which potentially could happen this year, that goes into the fund balance. We were proposing that that be put into a non-lapsing account to serve as an insurance reserve. We also had proposed that contributions from the regular municipal budget be included for the financial reserve until we got up to the point where we would cover our aggregate stopgap. Without those things in place, then as Mr. LeBlanc has rightly alluded to, you're going to be out there whacking that fund balance all the time, which is not the best financial principle. Unfortunately, those items were deleted from the alderman's agenda without discussion by them.
Do you think there'll be an opportunity to revisit, establishing a separate internal service fund for that health program?
Yes, that's back on the agenda once we clear the election and hopefully the politics isn't quite as severe. We plan on having that discussion about the insurance, about the fund balance, also about a fund set up to help the Board of Education with its special education, which tends to fluctuate greatly. And so if they have a surplus in their account, we could move that into a non-lapsing account that would be under the control of the finance department. And then they could then authorize use of it if those situations occur. And we also want to go back and propose, as we did before, capital fund that was set up in the same way. Right now, what happens is because the large purchases require more than is usually available in an annual municipal budget, we're forced to do leasing. And I think we all know that you're better off putting the money away, gaining some interest on it, and hopefully reducing the cost of the vehicles and the other long-term purchases, as opposed to borrowing and then paying interest for it. So those were the ideas that we had visited. Should we all be around after November, we'll be revisiting those again.
Okay. And I had one additional question. In the adoption of the fiscal 24 budget, was there any use of fund balance in that budget, or was that taken out?
No, there was no use of the fund balance.
Okay, great.
But we have heard that there is a little bit of unrealistic budgeting here. So with them budgeting at a 99%, when that's not, these are a lot of the items that Tony has brought to the attention at our last meeting, where it looked like your budgeting was overstated compared to the your history.
The city has used 99% collectible for as long as I can remember. And
But if that's not a
And you're not
realistic
making it.
number.
well,
Then it's like using fund balance. I mean, it's not called fund balance. You call it something else, but essentially that's what it is.
well, again, I think you have to look at it with the whole picture. We also historically run below the budgeted amount for spending.
Actually, for most years, we were at 98.9%. A couple of years over, 1 year we were at 97 when I did the historical data for the board of for the boat. So the number is really not that far off.
Okay. Tony?
Yeah, I have a question, two questions actually. The first question is on the report findings for 22. The one on the compensated absences, which says in 21, I think it's the same issue on the schedule, that it would be completed by fourth quarter of 21-22. Has that actually been completed yet, or?
Yes, it has.
Yeah. So do you have like a schedule or some sort of automated process to keep track of absences and then reconcile them?
We have an automated system within the payroll system, but we also have a spreadsheet that we keep track to make sure everything matches. That schedule is actually ready for the auditors to share.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. Okay, my second question is just curious on your 22-23 budget. You have something called a conversion offset, which is like $10 million. I was just curious what that was. It's on page
On our budget for 2023-24.
it says encumbrance budget. And then it says
That's a GEMS thing. It's an offset. It's a control account, which historically we don't use anymore for all intents and purposes. That was GEMS. It's an outdated system. So the conversion over, they had to actually accommodate for the control accounts. That's.
so this is when you converted to QDS.
MIP and QDS. QDS is the tax portion. MIP is the financial portion.
MIP. Right. So these were control accounts.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't seen control accounts besides this GEM system in probably 20 years.
Okay. And finally, my last question is in your budget, you have something called a budget working balance. I was curious what that was.
Contingency fund.
Yeah, it's for unanticipated expenses that may come up during the year. There's
Also,
two-
it's like a contingency, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've just historically called it working and special working. Special working is the things that are being planned for, which have not yet been approved.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I'm all set.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself. Becky, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Going back to earlier in the discussion, you mentioned that your retiree medical expenditures were 30% higher than expected. Do you have some insight into what that's coming from, and do you have a plan to manage that?
I have reached out to the company that manages that, and along with my human resource director, and we're working on figuring out exactly what caused that. I believe it was the increase in retirees and the age as they go up. When people leave here, they're on the city's medical until they reach 65 when they retire, and then they go on Amwin. So we need to actually, no one ever did this before tracking, because we never had a full-time HR person, but we're tracking the ages of the individuals that are on the retirement fund, so we can actually further look forward to seeing what our changes are and how that affects that.
And it doesn't look like you're pre-funding your retiree medical benefits, is that right?
I do not believe so.
So have you, do you have a sense from your actuary in terms of where those expenditures are likely to be going in the future based on upcoming retirement patterns?
Actually, I'm working with them as we speak.
Super, because that can be a rapidly increasing number, which is an unpleasant surprise. And the better handle you have on what that might look like going forward, the better you can, plan and anticipate for it.
Absolutely. Good advice.
There is a
Okay.
liability of 26 million, almost 27.
Yeah, so, that's a lot of benefits that you'll be paying sort of out of operations over the next 20, 30 years. That's a pretty big nut.
Can I inject? This is Mayor Zekin. Okay,
Sure.
Mayor Zekin here. Our new hirees, we negotiated with our unions that they are no longer in the pension fund. So that's going to be helping us out with the benefit parts of this in the future.
Well,
So
will they get retiree medical benefits?
That depends on...
No. Yeah. The police department, yes. The other units, we were negotiated the pension out of it, and we'll have to I'll double check on that, but I'm almost positive. But medical too.
But to Kate's point, if you have $26 million liability, that means in today's dollars, there's $26 million in today's dollars represents what will be paid out of operations over the next likely 20, 25, 30 years. So your actuary, in the course of calculating that $26 million liability, has already done a projection of the benefits that are expected to be paid out in the future years. And even if you had the next 5 years worth of that information, that would enable you to better build that into future budgets and your financial planning. I also wanted to just check in terms of your funding, your pension plans, if the amounts that you've budgeted represent the actuarially determined contribution.
Yes,
are you
they do.
over? Are you under? Great.
We are spot on.
Wonderful.
We'd like to go a little higher, but right now with the budget being flatlined this year, we did not go up. So we are funding at actuary values.
Super. And these are actual amounts that are in the budget or estimates?
They're actual amounts, and they get transferred. As a matter of fact, they'll be transferring next week to the pension fund to begin with.
That's terrific. Okay. I nothing else, Kate.
Okay. Glenn will pass on you. Is there a client, Kim?
Yes, Kate. I do have a number of questions. First, back to the finance director position that's been vacant, I believe, for over a year, and you have alluded that it has been posted and you've been actively working for this position. How many applications have you received on these postings?
None.
Nobody has applied.
No.
So in a year, nobody has applied for a finance director position every time
That's
you've
correct.
posted. No
Yeah.
applications.
I'm pretty clear about that.
That's surprising to hear. And we recently were informed that your tax assessor, I believe it is, has been out on medical leave and that you've had a great deal of backlog in check processing. And I would like to get an update on that situation.
Okay, I'll give you an update. My finance staff, I put down the tax office. We were down 2 people in the tax office. We've collected $15 million with 1 person down there. There's a backlog on the mail, but it's been corrected. I think the staff down there, the 1 person that was down there did an amazing job, but everybody's going to complain because it's not posted immediately. They don't understand the process that if it's postmarked by the 1st, it'll be put in. I have 1 person down there that I took out of my office.
Which is an issue in itself because your office is already down, right, Nancy?
True, but the tax office was priority.
I understand, and you're also going through a system conversion at the same time, correct?
Correct.
In the tax office.
Well, tax office is complete, and so is the finance office. We're up and running in both departments.
Okay.
Which is amazing.
For years, we have staffed the tax office with 1.5 people. We brought in a person to take up the 0.5 because the college student who used to do it has moved on. And the health condition that the acting tax collector experienced in the middle of July certainly isn't something you can plan for. So
No.
when we got that, we reached out to surrounding towns, to QDS. We were able to secure some personnel to come in and help out on a part-time basis. We shifted people from the finance office to come down and help out. We processed all of the payments as far as we took them in and we stamped their bills. The questions started coming if they didn't see them right away. And we explained to them that as long as they're in and marked as received before the end of the month, there was no penalties or interest that would be accrued. And all of that has been caught up.
So you're not in a backlog any longer?
We are not.
Okay. In your new financial system, question, what modules are you putting in and have you put in? Because I am familiar with this system and just wondering which ones you've implemented.
All but payroll.
So general ledger, accounts payable, budget,
Yeah. Yes.
reporting,
Yes.
no to payroll. How is payroll handled?
Payroll is an outside vendor. We run it
Okay.
through Paycor.
Paycor?
Yes.
Okay. And the Board of Ed is not on this system, correct?
It's
No,
on IV.
I'm sorry, you two clashed when you spoke at the same time.
I'm
They
sorry,
have their own.
they use IV.
Ivy. Thank you. The last reporting that we received from your office concerning the FY22 budget to actual reports that we received from the last meeting showed that you were going to end the fiscal year with a profit of about $1 million. And then when the audit was completed, excuse me, this is 22 budget to actual reports. And then when we received the final audits, we're seeing a shortfall of about almost $3 million, because if you were showing you were going to have a profit of $1 million, and then your audited report is coming in with a $2 million shortfall, it isn't all attributed to the health that's commented in your report. I'm wondering if your auditor is on the line today and can comment onto the differences that attributed to those shortfalls.
I don't believe he's on the line.
And why would you have not seen this coming with a $3 million shortfall?
Okay. Robbie, are you on the line?
Yes.
Can you explain how you had to catch up on the prior year Board of Ed? So a lot of it is Board of Ed, even though it's not healthcare. We've addressed a lot of issues on past practice in accounting and getting things current. And Robbie can probably give you more information on that.
Yes, so I started last June at the end of fiscal year 22, and we had a lot of invoices that were not paid throughout the year, and we have caught up on that now.
So what was your shortfall with the Board of Ed side that attributed to this? If I look at the description from the financials on page 10, which is the management discussion, it says there was a decrease in the Board of Ed expenditures of 3.6.
I'd have to pull up that sheet to see what you're looking at. Bear with me.
Well, you don't even have to look at that. Just tell me from your perspective of the Board of Ed, how much was your shortfall?
I don't feel confident without looking at the
Okay.
numbers by giving that to you.
Okay.
I will look into it.
Okay. So with that, I'm just wondering about the reliability that we have of the reports that this commission has been receiving from the city, and that we're being told that we have projections that are coming through, and those projections are not accurate when you come through from the end of the year. And so I would like to hear about the reporting side of it and the reliability and the seriousness of your vacancies, and also the differences that we are seeing in your financial reporting.
I think the explanation as far as the variance was just given, that the system that we had to report on at the time, we gave you the information we had. Then it was discovered that there were a bunch of things that were not paid, which had to be put in as closing entries at the end of the year.
Now, going forward,
how should we, going forward, how should we be confident that you're getting invoices both on town and the Board of Ed paid in a timely manner, so that when we look at the reports, they are accurate, that there's not going to be another kind of summer surprise of invoices, big pile of invoices that were unpaid?
Well, I think it boils down to the fact that you have two people in the positions now who have been there long enough to have a better handle on what's going on. I know in Nancy's case, she is working very diligently to make sure that the bills are turned in and paid on time. Unfortunately, there's no policy in place for the city that forces these department heads to do these kinds of things without any impunity. That's something that we've been looking into. From the Board of Ed side, I think Robbie has worked very, very closely with Nancy and putting procedures and practices in place that address these kinds of issues.
I would
Again,
say
they both unfortunately inherited situations which I don't think they would create on their own, but they were created for them and they walked into them. And 21-22 was unfortunately the year of transition for all of that stuff.
So, do you have in your HR, do you have an evaluation process for your department heads?
There is an evaluation process that she's working on implementing.
Okay, so there has not been one in the past.
There is not one in the past, no.
Okay.
We
I will-
started that with the former HR director. And it has not gone any farther than that.
I would like
that
to
is
say,
one way where you can address
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
I would like to say that Robbie Trainer, who's on the Board of Ed side, has implemented many projects to actually make it so that they are getting their bills in on time and going through the proper procedures to get them approved before they purchase. So he's on the right track.
Good.
But is his $3 million, nobody can tell me right off the top of your head that the shortfall of $3 million is all of the Board of Ed. And when I look at the descriptions from the audit report, that doesn't lead me to believe that it is only the Board of Ed. I do believe that we have a situation at the city.
I will tell you this much. When I came on board, I realized, and I was informed by Walter, that there was an overestimate of the Board of Ed's budget for $1 million. Someone double booked something in the budget. So we knew that in anticipation. So that's 2.8 million. Walter,
What do you mean double
explain
book
that better?
something in the budget?
No, that's not 100% accurate. The previous person who put the budget together had included a grant from the state of 1.2 million, which did not come to fruition.
So some of the shortfall was being under on grants.
Correct.
Okay. Kim, are you?
From a big picture, if you look at the trend analysis that we provided within the report and we look back at the history, you're going to notice in 18 and 19 that there was a shortfall in their fund balance deficit. Then we had 2 good years of 20 and 21 where they've come out and showed some profits and out of the deficit situation. And now we're going into 22 and we're falling back in where they're now losing some leverage and going backwards again. And then the question about the reliability and the reporting, it's just very, very concerning that they're backsliding. And that's what I would like to make folks aware of. And in the conversation, I don't have concrete answers in discussions of what those dollars are in each of these areas. So as on top of vacancies, that has not been addressed, and we've continued to speak about this for a long time. So to say that you're getting no applications whatsoever, I'm very surprised to hear that, because most of the time you'd at least get 20 to 30 of people that weren't qualified versus no applications. Then I wonder where you're posting. And
we're posting in this Connecticut financial officers accounts and in CCM.
And then the
try the paper as well.
Yeah. And then the next thing, when we look at the audit reports, we're getting some backlash here. When we look at the audit reports and the corrective action plan at the end of the year, there went from 11 findings to this year of 9 findings. So therefore, I did want to speak with the auditor to find out if any of these items were closed. It looks as if there possibly could have been 2 closed, but I'm not sure if they were bundled. So again, I just don't know about the progress that's being made.
With regards to the findings, keep in mind the audit report you're looking at is 2022. I came on board. Pardon me?
I'm not making a reflection on you personally.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
making a reflection of the overall city.
Oh, no, I'm just saying I came on board in 2022 and we have made significant changes in that. And you'll see that in the next upcoming audit. I can't speak for what happened in the past, but I do know we closed 95% of those.
And we won't know. We won't know that until we see the audit.
Exactly. So.
And that hasn't been started.
It was started on the Board of Ed side. I will be working with John Alcavello this coming week on the beginnings of our end.
Oh, the Board of Ed has already started?
Yes.
For FY23?
Yes.
Good. That's good news. Thank you.
I'm not going to guarantee it's on time, but we're actually starting.
So
well,
with your new
an update on that at the next meeting for sure.
With your new system, we had asked that we would, I'm assuming we would see some better reporting out of this new system that would give us budget to actuals going forward. But again, we're only seeing one line, flat line budget, which doesn't really provide anybody with any kind of historical or honestly meaningful budgeting. When can we anticipate seeing some meaningful budget reports with some comparisons?
I am working with MIP on developing reports and saving them. As I said, it's a new system. I started on July 1st, just like everybody else in the building. We're producing the reports and learning how to use the system to get the best reports and more reports than what you guys were provided previously. But I'm hoping that by the next meeting, I'll have a whole bunch of reports for you.
And when we asked for the assumptions on the FY24 budget, we didn't receive any assumptions. That's listed on the agenda. Walt, would you please provide that?
Yep, I can. I'll send you a follow-up document.
Thank you.
One
One other
other
thing
a quick follow-up. Going back to the reporting, Nancy, on the budget report that was provided for, it was run, it looks like on August 9th. The expenditure budget report for 2024, it's an 80-page document. Are you able to, can you get a report programmed that summarizes the expenditure budget maybe into a few pages?
Absolutely. As I said, I'm learning it. I haven't really worked on crystal reports in years, but I'm redeveloping my skills. So yes, I'm going to get that down to a reasonable number of pages.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else at this time? I think before we close out the meeting, I'm going to be talking to members wanting some suggestions on a letter to be written with recommendations regarding things such as the establishment of internal service funds, funding OPEB on an actuarial basis, policies and procedures that should be developed and implemented. So we can do that before the close of the meeting.
One
What do you
other
wanna
thing,
do?
we can look at
Yeah.
the tier designation.
Yeah, there is still surprisingly only the one.
Yeah, and it's the audit findings that's happening, but with this year's operations falling into the deficit this year.
Well, and I also didn't understand why number 5 was not a yes. The 6/30/21 report was not submitted until 2022. They barely got the 2022 audit in within 12 months.
Correct.
So
It's questionable.
yeah, it is. It is. All right. Well, thank you very much for.
I think it would be prudent if we could take into consideration for this commission, Madam Chair, recommendation for formal oversight of the MFAC rather than voluntary. Could I make a motion?
Please.
I'd like to make a motion for a formal recommendation to the OPM Secretary for oversight for the City of Derby to the Municipal Financial Advisory Commission due to their insufficient progress in their audit findings and the criteria that makes them eligible for MFAC oversight.
Is there a second? Sorry. Is there a second from?
Second.
Thank you, Becky. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have people from Hamden here today, I
Good
assume.
morning. Hi, Lauren.
Good morning.
Mayor. With me, I have Curtis Eatman, our finance director.
Hello.
Hello.
I just have a couple quick questions before I go through the rest of the board. What's the status? I think you did include something in here about your budget, but how'd that all go?
The 22-23 budget.
No, the 24 budget.
Oh,
You had
okay.
something in here about the approval, but I just wanted to know, like, how was the process? Was there a lot of support for your budget?
I think that the process went really well. We worked with the council to achieve some savings because we are in CMERS. And so I worked with Secretary Scanlon on the new CMERS legislation. And so we were able to save $1.4 million, and the council was able to make those changes to their budget. I think that we have budgeted really well for next year, and I think that we will be able to find some organic surpluses. Not as much as we were able to find for fiscal year 23 because of some of the really great savings that we were able to achieve from medical, as well as the revenues from our building permits that came in because of a very large Quinnipiac University program. But even still, I think that this fiscal year 24 budget is well funded, funded appropriately, and will have a small organic surplus.
And what is your fund balance as a percentage of revenues or compared to your target in your policy?
So, are you talking about our projected fund balance?
No, your actual.
Okay, so as of the 22 audit, it was 13.9, 12.9, and that's 4.8%. With the fiscal year 23 budget, we were able to achieve the savings from the deficit mitigate or the fund balance restoration plan. So that was about $8.6 million. So that goes directly to the fund balance, plus the organic savings that we were able to achieve, the surplus from the fiscal year 23 budget. And so that is looking really good. We're expecting to have between $8 and $10 million of organic surplus.
So what will that put you out as a percentage?
Sorry, less. Let's see. It's like $6 million of organic surplus, plus the $8 million from the fund balance restoration plan. And so that would put us over the 7% that we, are supposed to have. That puts us closer to 14%.
Okay.
No,
Good.
14 million. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, he's writing down a lot of numbers. That's not making sense to me. Okay, so we're going to be closer to about 10% of our fund balance, 10% of our operating budget.
Okay. And what's your target on that? Where do you want to get to?
In the fund balance policy, it's 7%.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Mike?
Just a couple comments. First off, great news with the revision of the outlook to positive. I'm sure that was beneficial in the restructuring issuance that you've done. I just wanted to spend a minute on the $3 million in-kind allocation for the Board of Education.
Yes.
I think, and I may be off on this, but I think it was referenced as for one-time expenses. If that's the case, you know, well, let me be a little bit more clear. Is there a shortfall that is going to be in place a year from now from the standpoint of not having this $3 million again available to support the education expenses?
So that, I think, really depends on the work that the Board of Education does. What they're doing is they're looking at all of the schools that they have and determining if they have too much square footage. So the MOU really asks them to do the work of finding savings so that they're not coming to us year after year with very large asks. The other benefit is that the state budget is going to produce more revenue for educational cost sharing. We're set to get $3.5 million additional next year. So I think that will be helpful, but ultimately some of this $3 million was supposed to be used for a redistricting plan that they are required to have in place for the following school year.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. So that is something that's a one-time expense. But, you know, certainly, hopefully they're able to, you know, find some savings throughout this year to better position the budget structure for next year.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike?
No, again, I think, you know, Hamden's continues to move in the right direction. I think your bond deal was a reflection of that in many ways, and kudos for securing a good rate.
Okay, Tony?
Thank you.
Yes, actually, I guess my first was a comment. I liked your budget document. I liked reading all your policies, and it was a lot of good information. So I thought that was great that you were able to put that together, including the travel policy, which I thought was a good one to put in there. That's great. That's it. My question is also about. It looks like you did pretty well in your tax collections in the current year, and so I was curious what your budget for a tax collection rate, and if you are projected that you'll think you'll continue to do well there, or what's your thoughts on that?
Our back taxes were fantastic this last year, and really helped with our surplus that we were able to achieve. Our car taxes, motor vehicle taxes were also phenomenal. And so when we put the budget together, we set our collection rate at 97.7 for fiscal year 23. For fiscal year 24, we moved up to 98, and I think that we will fall right in line because of all the surplus that we were able to achieve. And our assessor's office has been incredibly busy making sure that our properties are assessed appropriately. They've done a fantastic job going into commercial properties so that we can know what we need to collect for personal property tax. They've been very active this last year.
That's great. I noticed your fiscal indicator reports about 98% for your tax collection rate, so that seems to be pretty close. So that's good. Thank you.
Becky?
I don't have any questions, Kate.
Glenn? Glenn, you still with us? Okay. Kim?
Yes, congratulations, Mayor, and Finance Director. On your rate change, that is fantastic news. I did want to just bring one item to the attention, as I had a sidebar conversation regarding the city and the new payroll system that you're putting in. And I am aware that you're putting the resources to it to make sure that that runs smoothly. I would definitely highly encourage that you do that. Wanted to just ask, what was the payroll system that you were on previously that I know that you're moving to ADP?
Yes, we were using, it was internal, so mostly utilizing Munis, but
Okay.
it was an internal payroll.
Got it. All right. Good luck with that. And I guess my only item that I would add to that is making sure that you hire payroll professionals with the expertise to be able to take on that system. But it sounds like you're hitting this face on, and you can making sure that you tackle it appropriately.
Thank you.
So I think you guys you're really doing well. Is there overall community support, political support for continuing on the road that you're on? Like,
well, we have an election this year, so I guess we'll find out. But I think so. I do a lot of canvassing, and when I'm out talking to people, they say, I know you were dealt a tough hand, and you're doing the best job you can. So I'm hearing a lot of really positive feedback.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'd hate to see the progress you've made stop with, so it's important to have continued support. All right. Thank you. I think we're good. Very much. Plymouth.
And for the record, Plymouth is a client of mine.
Okay. All right. I didn't get a chance to go through your reports as thoroughly as I would have liked, but where do you stand with the audit from?
The auditors have been here for preliminary. They were here last week for one day. They were here with the town, and also one day with the Board of Ed. And they were also here yesterday for some follow-up. The discussions are going really well. They're really happy. And we're on point for December 31st. So we're thrilled. We are thrilled. So it's going really well with the 23 audit.
Okay. And with the 22 audit, I was looking for findings. And like I say, I didn't get a chance to go through, but were there any significant findings in the fiscal 22 audit?
No, nothing significant. Just the comment about, keeping up to date with our records, and we have been. We're currently we're done with, obviously completely done with June bank recs and recording all the transactions related to that. And we're currently working on July's.
So your bank recs are on time?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't go more than a month.
Okay. And are you reconciling with the Board of Education on a regular basis?
Well, we're currently looking to hire another staff person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that's one of our goals, is to, once we have a full staff, another staff accountant, that will be reconciling regularly with the Board of Ed. But okay. Yeah, all the entries that we make come from them. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mike.
Just taking a peek at your projected results for 2023. You had a beneficial overage on the state grants intergovernmental revenue to the tune of 2.6 million. Do you recollect, or do you have any indication on what happened there? Was there a grant unanticipated that was brought in?
A part of that I know was the motor vehicle change. Our mill rate is over, so part of that grant that we received for motor vehicle, we also, it was the same year as a reval, so they went off the previous, when they did a calculation, they went off their previous mill rate and grand list, and so that was very beneficial to us. I don't think that comes up for the whole 2 million, but I know that was a significant part of that.
Okay. All right. And overall, just, you know, seeing that the projected results are very strong, you're looking at a 3.3 million surplus estimate at this point.
Yes, I believe that's our projected at the moment.
And what's the anticipated plan with that? Is it just to let that roll into fund balance?
For now, yes. However, at the close of our 22 audit, we are up over 6 million now. So, which as a percentage is, I think we're approaching 15% now, which I think at this point, for almost a decade now, that's been a priority of Plymouth to restore that fund balance. I think we're at the point now where we can look for other opportunities for the use of those funds.
Do you have a fund balance policy in place?
I don't believe so. I do not think we do. Maybe the Board of Finance does.
You should have one. And I recommend things in there like using fund balance, drawing it down only for things like capital or one-time expenditures, not using it to support operating expenditures.
Right. Yeah, we haven't had any drawdown, at least since I've been mayor, and I believe the last several years of the Merchant administration, there's been no budgetary use for the fund balance. So maybe it's not written down, but we've been acting on a policy of not touching that. But certainly we can write it down, yes.
Yeah. Tony? Did we lose
I'm all
Tony?
set, thanks.
Okay,
I'm good.
right. Becky? Oh, Becky, this is a client. Glenn? I think we lost Glenn earlier. Kim?
I do not have any, I don't have any specific, the questions that I had were already previously asked. So I'm glad to hear that your reconciliations are up to date. And Grace, you look as if you're pretty confident. And I know that we've had some rocky roads and you've worked hard to get this stuff caught up. So I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that of the positive outcomes from the financials.
Thank you.
And you're making true, Mayor, to add more staff where it was needed so that you don't fall behind. Very good. Thank you.
Now the problem we're having is finding that person, but we're trying. So as you guys all know, it's hard to find qualified people for a lot of things right now. So we're trying.
If you hear of anybody, if you can recommend anybody, please.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for the good work getting yourself, in good shape. We'll look forward to seeing that June 23rd audit filed on time.
May I ask a question? Just so one of our big goals is to, as much as I love coming on and seeing you guys every couple of months, one of the big goals would be to eventually get released. It's been almost a decade now. So obviously you guys don't have to answer now, but if I could get some kind of guidance as to what further you guys need to see to eventually go down the road of seeing Plymouth released, I would really appreciate that.
I, for one, would like to see your fiscal 23 audit filed on time.
I figure that would be number one.
And your budget has no use of fund balance, correct? That is one of the reasons why you started to come under us, was the use of fund balance to balance the budget.
For operating expenses. Yeah, nope.
Correct.
For several years now, I believe. Certainly not under my two budgets, and I believe the last few of Merchants didn't either.
And the proper staffing. So right now, I think that you've started to hit all of our pressure points, right, Kate? As long as we get the financial.
I think we get that audit on time and we see the management letter doesn't have any significant findings. I think you're on the right track and releases is possible.
You should have the management letter for
23. The 23 management letter.
Okay, so you want to see 23s. Okay.
Yeah.
We did not see
being filed on time.
Yeah, I
one.
don't think we saw a management letter. We saw audit findings. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Bill Plummer, did we?
Yeah, there was one material audit
Okay.
finding, and there were a couple management letter suggestions.
Thank you for
Yeah, I
correcting
think
me.
there was the 22 one still had a finding from 21. Oh, no, that was 22-001. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
But those are the things we'd be looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So I guess next is our list of 22 audits that have not been filed on time yet.
Yeah, this is a list of those, as you know, under the new criteria. If the audit hasn't been submitted within a year, a municipality would be eligible for coming under the MFAC. And so there have been 4 of the, I think there's 20 on this list that have submitted. Now, the city of Groton, we're still waiting on their state single audit report, and that report is needed to determine if there were any audit findings. So that's something critical we also need. But there are a number of reports, a lot of that are out, more than we typically see, and be a variety of reasons, but significant amount is a lot of financial staffing shortages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
we're
noticed that
concerned.
recurring theme.
Yeah.
And without those audits, it's hard to tell if there's anything else going on.
Right.
Is West Haven the only one on this list that's at the MARB?
Yes.
Yes.
Have we got any indication from any of these communities that, oh, I see the one, Bloomfield is saying October.
Very concerned about some of these. It doesn't seem like, is it the audits really started in a few of these?
The fiscal 22 audits have not
Right.
started.
Yes.
Boy, what do we do here? I mean,
one thing is if an audit's significantly late, that almost determines the following year's audit.
well,
So it's
yeah.
almost, and I don't know if this is going to be something where it needs a 3-year look, because in the case of Danbury, that was not submitted till the 21 report wasn't submitted till the end of June of 23. We know that audit hasn't really begun, and so that'll probably run into a significantly late report. And how do we get back to a regular schedule?
So, I think to have all these people come to the next meeting would be, we'd need a whole day for the meeting. Can we ask each one of these for a status report for the next meeting?
Yes.
Where do they stand with finance directors?
We do
what
hope
else
to
is
get
holding
in
it up?
Yeah, several have indicated to us that they expect the report to be, again, this is just verbal. Since we didn't have anything definitive, we may not have put in the submission date. They've verbally said this to us. So we hope that list by October will shrink to hopefully single digits.
Can you look at the so yeah, maybe we wait and see what we get in before October, but how about looking at the 21 audits on all these people and see if there were any significant findings that we'd be concerned that they might not have been addressed?
Yeah, so we can certainly do that. Yeah.
Is it within our purview to ask them to submit not just a status report, but some sort of a corrective action plan? With time, timeline stones, and then they're reporting to us is how are they doing against that plan?
Yeah. And, it might also be if they can send us a simple, not an 80-page report, but a simple year-to-date budget to actual on their general fund for fiscal 22, they should all be able to produce that. Understanding that it might have changes, but at least we'd get a sense of how they're doing compared to their budgets if there are major issues.
Yes, for at least one of these reports, we've actually asked for a work plan. Because we know that the audit hasn't started, so we've requested a work plan as to how, the timing and when all these things are going to happen, just so that we can gauge and try to, move the audit process along.
Okay. All right. So what's this Public Act 23-197?
This Kim actually brought it to our attention. It's in regards to it appears, again, it's subject to interpretation. It appears that when there's audit findings that have been brought to the town's attention, that it has to go through the legislative body as far as addressing the findings.
So this was new legislation that was put in, but it was not put in by this commission. And it's an awareness for us that it is requiring them to notify their local legislative body, which I think is great, if.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Draft guide for facilitating a timely audit.
We've been trying to work on, and there's just so much that, we can do, but often when OPM engages a town because of a late audit, it's surprising to find out that things haven't happened during the year. And so now the town is scrambling to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just an attempt to kind of managing the audit process and so the town can kind of be aware of they need to be focusing on the audit, not just at year end, but to ensure that things are being done. Again, I don't know how much we can. So we were seeking, obviously, commissioners' input on this. You guys have gone through this, and so we've been working with obviously our consultant, but we're also looking for any input that you could provide.
Does anybody have any comments now, or I haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but I will try to. Does anybody else have comments on it they want to give now, or send them in individually?
Just so I understand, which you say here, for instance, you should be reconciling tax receivables to the general ledger and post journal entries like systematically throughout the year. Just to pick one example. And so I think that's actually a good analysis to go through, because we're at a previous place. Probably none of this stuff was done, but like where I am now, it's pretty much all done. A lot of it's done throughout the year. And so the audit where I used to work, it took forever because of that reason. As opposed to an audit, which they just audit our information.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually preparing all these reports.
Right. I mean, yeah, some of these things, and we've also gotten complaints from auditors lately that the town is expecting them to do things that they shouldn't be doing.
They shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing, correct.
Okay, so let's all take a look at that and send in comments to Bill and Kim.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Going back to Derby, I think they need a little support from through us making formal recommendations. Aside from just the oversight, I think they should be looking at an internal service fund for their medical. We should be recommending that they fund OPEB on an actual basis. They need a formal evaluation process for non-represented employees because, to me, you're not paying your invoices and submitting them on time. You shouldn't be getting a good rating or a good raise. They need a purchase order system and a policy. So can we craft a letter recommending especially what's most important to me, I think, is the internal service fund and the OPEB. And the purchase order system.
Correct. And we have discussed this information, so I agree. And this could be part of the recommendation as to why we want the oversight, and that would then be included. We can draft all of the items that we have been discussing and requesting and send that around to the commission for your review prior to submittal.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think if this might help the administrators with dealing with some of the elected officials saying, look, this is what's happening and the state commission is telling us we need to do this, and gives them a little support in the efforts that they're putting in there.
Sure. But all of these items are serious and they need to be making progress.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else?
Just going back to the best practices guide, once that's finalized, what's the intent of it? Just to make it available to the cities and towns, or is there more to it?
Well, the thought was to make it available to the cities and town, but also anyone that the commission meets with, or OPM, if we believe we could use this as a format to get some feedback, where we ask them to complete this.
See where they stand.
Yeah, it's almost like a checklist. Has this been before we approve? Just keep approving extension requests. Every month with no end in sight.
Yeah, so then I guess and I think that's a good idea. And then in regards to the form itself, you should incorporate something along the lines of date of completion and who was involved with the completion, their names and titles.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody better be opposed. Okay. Thank you all. We're adjourned.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Kim, you want to connect at another point?
I have time if you'd like to now, but I want the recording to stop.
Sure.